Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and take time to listen into the podcast. And because you've been such a faithful listener of the podcast, we've got ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you for listening and help us keep it going. Rate, review, subscribe. I know you hear those words all the time, but it really makes a difference. So we'd appreciate that. All right. Now, today, I can't wait to get to our guest. I mean, I'm usually excited about our guest, but this one I'm especially excited about because her story, I think, will speak directly to you. All right. So now, today, I'm talking with Dr. Lynise Green. And I can't wait for her to tell you about the story, but let me tell you a little bit about this. She helps high achieving women reclaim the parts of themselves they put on pause while navigating the pressure to do it all and to do it perfectly. I mean, how many of us can relate to that? And for years, she poured herself into her career, her family, and everyone else who needed her. She was the reliable one, the strong one, the she's got it one. And on the outside, she was thriving, leading teams, creating programs, mentoring students, and doing all that with a smile. But on the inside, she was running on empty, quietly burned out, overextended, and deeply aware that something had to change. And her wake up came in the quiet moments of exhaustion. She just couldn't shake that. And she realized that she had lost herself trying to keep everything and everyone together. So now stay tuned to the episode to hear how that turned out. Welcome, Dr. Lynise Green.
Thank you. Wow, you say that and it brings back, it makes me want to cry.
I wondered about that, if hearing it would have an impact on you.
It
Yeah,
does. It brings back a flood of memories and emotions. Just, yeah, wow, that was powerful. Thank you for that great introduction.
you're welcome. And I mean, now that we opened up sort of that, do you want to say more about that or you want to hold on for a little bit later to talk about that?
Um, I'm happy to share, yeah, a little bit more about it. So, yeah, and I know we will get into this a little bit, but definitely the the work that I do is absolutely born out of my own experience, and just learning how to navigate. I would almost say a series of burnouts over, a period of time, um, and noticing that there were so many other people, women, who were going through the same thing and didn't know how to get themselves out of the cycle. So that brought me to where I am now. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you are a doctor. Tell us about what type of doctor you are.
Yep. So I have a doctorate in naturopathy. So think holistic medicine. So naturopathy is a pretty big umbrella of all things holistic medicine. So you study nutrition, you study herbs. So I'm a master herbalist. You study all different types of holistic modalities, which is really wonderful because you have a lot to draw on. And then postgraduate, I'm a foodie, so I kind of went down like I'm really going to get into nutrition. And then I ended up doing some other work with stress management. But yeah, naturopathy, it's a big umbrella. And then you just kind of have to find your way for what really works for you.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now, were you a doctor at the time you had the moment I talked about in your introduction, or did that come after that?
Um, I probably just gotten the doctorate degree right around that time. So, everything was still kind of theory for me. I had done the work and read the books and wrote papers and all that kind of stuff, which was probably which led me to the first burnout because I was studying for the doctorate, working a full-time job. I was a single mom at the time, um, helping to take care of my aging grandparents. So it was just a whole lot happening.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so again, it was theory for me at the time. And it really took um, some years of just my own personal trial and error, trying to figure it out and, finding what worked and what didn't work before I could really feel like I came up with a system, like a framework that I could really implement. I got a lot of well-meaning and very bad advice along the way that I look back and just go, wow, okay, someone really, really told me that. I had one person, and like I said, I've been through cycles of this. I had a boss actually, tell me one time that my overwhelm was an indication that I had not mastered my job yet. And right, that's the same look I had, was like, wow, okay. And what made it so awful is this was a female boss.
Wow.
Yeah, that one really, really hurt. That one really hurt. So,
All right, so let's go back there. Because I want to chronicle your journey a little bit. I know we can't do the whole 27 years or what I don't know the number of years,
right.
but we can't. But I just want to kind of do the defining moments because I'm imagining there might be a listener who's anywhere along their journey in her own career,
Hmm.
and so hopefully she can get some inspiration as you just share your journey. All right.
Yeah,
So you were talking about, and when you said you were doing all those things at the time you were doing your doctorate, any one of those things could cause burnout.
absolutely.
Yeah, that was quite a bit. All right.
Absolutely. So.
In there, you mentioned you were working at a job. What kind of work were you doing at that time?
So prior to that, my first degree is in mechanical engineering. So I was a senior program manager for a large scale software development project for the Department of Defense, working for a pretty big defense contractor at the time. Um, so that was really, I think, the first time, and this was so long ago, that I really experienced burnout. And I say I was, for once in my life, ahead of the curve on something because it was burnout before burnout was a thing. We were working, regular, expected 60-hour weeks, just working on a big project. And as a salaried employee, it's sort of like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't work 40 hours like everyone else, and you're in management. So, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And so that's what I did. And it was interesting. I came home one evening from work and, picked up my daughter and, mom's going to take a little break. I'm just going to sit here for a minute. I'll get dinner all together. Oh man, I woke up like several hours later with, my very patient daughter kind of looking at me like, when are we going to eat? And just thinking, okay, something's not right here. And at the time I remember doing an aerobic. I like aerobic classes. So I was doing like a step aerobic class and I kept feeling like I would do the class and I'm working out hard, so I expect to be a little tired, but I wasn't recovering like every other day. And it was getting worse to the point where I actually had to stop going. And I just couldn't figure out like what is happening right now. And finally, had sense enough to go to my doctor, like what's going on. And, they did all the tests and adrenal stuff. And she was like, yeah, you need some time off. And and in many of the cycles, that was what I got was manage your time better, get some rest, you just need some time off. Um, but there were just signs that I just didn't know to pay attention to. So it was the fatigue. Um, it was just at the time I really loved being an engineer and a program manager, and the joy was gone. Like it was just the joy was gone. It was really just like eating at my soul. It was just really draining me internally, mentally. I like to think, I'm a pretty sharp crayon in the box, and mental fatigue. I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. So there were these signs. I just didn't know at the time what the signs were and what they were telling me. Um, and nobody else seemed to know either. And so, I went through that first bout and went on short-term disability actually for about 6 months. 6 months of doing nothing, everybody feels great. So I thought, okay, that's the answer. And I came back and hit the ground running. And then, as I say, life gets to lifing. And several years later, I found myself going through the same thing. And I think the second time it was more the emotional components of it that really just sort of took me down. And yeah, so it was a lot of learning on the job, so to speak, and just really um, learning to listen to myself and figure out what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're still kind of tracing your career journey just for context, so to speak. All right, so now at what point in this journey did you decide with all the work and that you're doing and you kind of figured out some ways to kind of get back to yourself like that 6 month time off?
Mhm.
At what point did you decide to go and get your doctorate?
So the first burnout episode happened probably short as I was finishing up the doctorate. So all of that was going on at the same time. That was the first like identifiable moment that I can remember. Like I said, I was working on the doctorate, working the job, single mom. Um, my grandmother had been diagnosed with cancer, so I was helping my mom take care of her. So just, the perfect storm of life happening. That was the first time. So I got the doctorate, eventually left the corporate world thinking that might help, right, as well. Left the corporate world and opened my own business. So yeah, okay. And so the next time, like I said, the circumstances were different. I think the signs were similar though, but the circumstances were different. So the next time I was a business owner. um, I was married at the time, not in a good marriage, but married at the time. So there was again a lot of emotional stress, a lot of mental stress, the stress of, being responsible for your own finances. And then all of those things came, but a lot of the symptoms were the same. It was the fatigue, that it didn't matter. I thankfully I sleep well. Kind of like whatever's going on in my world, I sleep well, but the sleep wasn't restorative. So I would just be tired, 8, 9 hours of sleep. I was still just fatigued under, I say it was like being a duck on the water. So you're sort of like looking great on the top and paddling underneath just really hard. So the fatigue was still there. The mental exhaustion was still there. And then the emotional weight, the joy was gone again. And so that was the next time. And so, then it was, leave the business, get a divorce, because that's supposed to fix it too. And it didn't. But fortunately, during that time, owning the business, my ex-husband and I, we owned a wellness center together. So I was working with a lot of other women. I'd started doing a lot of teaching. I'm an educator at heart, and I had started doing a lot of teaching on nutrition and stress and burnout. And that's where it all started to really come together, honestly, as I was really working more with clients, and helping them and seeing our similarities. That's really where it started to come together. Like, oh, I really understand what's underlying things now. Um, so yeah, so from the corporate job, owning my own business, back into the corporate world again. Yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah. Okay, so after when you went back into corporate, what kind of role, what kind of work was it? Was it back into engineering or was it more?
No,
Okay.
thankful. Look, I say thankfully, right? No, because yeah, it was something like I said about the engineering, and I'll make the point about that too. But the engineering, other than just being exhausting work, I realized that it wasn't feeding me as a person. The work itself is important, absolutely, what was going on, but I found that the exhaustion, that level of exhaustion that I was feeling from that was because the work didn't align with my values, my purpose, the things I was passionate about, and that was exhausting. So when I went back into corporate work, I actually started still doing program management so I could lean on the skills, but I was managing corporate wellness programs.
Oh,
So that was, more in line. I could use the skill set from the engineering, but I was managing something that I was super passionate about. So that really made a difference. And that's part of, one of the things when I'm working with people is, in fact, one of the first things is understanding like what's your purpose, what's your passion, what are your values, and are you able to live them, not just put them on paper as words, but are you able to bring them to life in the work that you do? Does that work feed your passion and feed your values? And if it doesn't, either let's figure out how you can bring that to work. Um, or you might have some other decisions to make. That's not for me to say. But yeah, so I went back into corporate wellness. I've never actually gone back into engineering since. So.
okay. And so in between there, there was the business that that you and your husband at the time shared.
Mhm.
Was that the wellness business?
Yes.
Okay. So wellness, so engineering, wellness business, wellness in corporate.
Corporate wellness.
Okay. And then what happened in the transition next to the next?
So I still do corporate wellness consulting. So yeah, so I'm still doing that, which is a thing, right? And that's probably another one of those things I have to manage. Um, I still live in that space, but even then, as I have continued to get more in touch with, I'm going to say, and stay in touch with my values and my passion, and my purpose, um, I find even more so that I want to do more education because corporate wellness is still working in corporate America. And as a program manager, I think the thing that I struggle with is that I don't get to work one-on-one with people. I'm managing the program. So I'm developing strategy and, making sure my coaches and my RDNs who are working with the people are, doing the things that they need to do and working with clients, but I don't get to be the one to help people with their transformations. And I miss that part. So even though I still have, corporate clients and I do corporate education and all that kind of thing, I had to find a way to continue to stay connected with what really energized me.
And so how did you find a way to stay connected to what energizes you?
So, like I said, I'm an educator at heart. And so, and still having to find that balance, I started, well, and as I was doing more workshops, so I would do, corporate workshops as part of the work. And so that did give me that little bit of, I could get in front of people and I could talk to them and kind of watch them have their aha moments. Um, and as I was doing more of the workshops and more of the training, people were like, I need a little bit more of your time. I need a little bit more of you to help me and not in the group. And so things just kind of grew from there. And so I'm still in that world where I say I'm living the parallel life of still, working with corporate clients, but now I get to still do that education piece in groups, and then working with individuals as well to help them make those transformations or make those changes.
Yeah. And so are you doing that with your business now, with your current
Yes.
business? Okay.
hmm
All
Yep,
right.
absolutely. Absolutely. So,
All right.
yeah.
So now tell everybody what your current business, you said a little bit, but tell us the name and a little bit about it in case they want to hear about it, and then we'll say more about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, in the current business, it's called Well with L. I help high achieving women, and I like to say I can help anybody, but women, they're my people. So I help them learn how to lead with well-being. Again, through my own experience, I'm a firm believer that you can do what you love to do, and with leadership, if it's mid-level management, your C-suite, you're leading your home, we're leaders in so many different areas, particularly as women, we lead so many things. But I'm a firm believer that you don't have to sacrifice your health and your well-being and your joy in order to do the things you love to do and to do them well. So, as a wellness leadership consultant, I work with high performing women and really help them learn how to develop personalized strategies, tap into their personal energy, um, so that they can, do what they love and still be happy and be energized, and bring all those things, to bear for themselves at work and at home.
Yeah, yeah, that's important work. And of course, I would say that, but because I work with high achieving women and I see the need, so I believe that's really important work. And I love how over the your career journey, you kind of put the pieces together and made it so it works. So it's true to you and it energizes you. So now where you are in your journey, would you say you have purpose in your work in life?
Um, I do. Yeah. I think initially I probably stumbled into the purpose of it. Because again, in the beginning, I was really sharing tools and resources and strategies from my own experience of pulling myself back from burnout. And, as I went through different cycles, I got better at it. And so that information, continued to get better. And as I continued really to learn more about myself and of course studying, understanding, my triggers and really paying attention to myself, um, I eventually was able to create an actionable framework that I can use to help women, get into these better spaces. So originally, yeah, I think I kind of stumbled into the purpose, but now I am very clear that this is what I was supposed to do. This is because even when it's a long day, it feels so good. It just lights you up inside. So and I'm clear that yeah, this is it. This is my compelling why I'm here.
Yes, and I see and hear the energy and passion come through even as you're talking about it. Yeah. And of course, I can appreciate that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and can resonate with it. All right. So now you know the podcast is Leadership Purpose.
Hmm.
And I imagine the listener as a high achieving woman. And I'll tell you my definition of high achieving, and maybe we're on the same. But just so you know, and people who are listening will know my definition of high achieving. But let me say before I talk about them being high achieving, they're at a place in their career journey where they're successful but unfulfilled.
Hmm.
And something seems to be missing, although everything looks good on the outside, like what you were saying about the duck. It looks
Hmm.
good. They can't complain because people even are impressed with them. They applaud them for their work. And so they feel like everything, but something's missing, can't quite put their finger on it. And
Yeah.
so this is the woman that the podcast speaks to now. And
Hmm.
she wants more meaning and purpose and impact in her work. All right, so now let me describe what I call my definition of high achieving.
Okay.
With that going on, she's also ambitious, responsible,
Hmm.
good at a few things.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
I thought so. And she's the one in her professional life. People come to her for advice or just want to talk to her, whether it's directly related to her role or not. She's the one.
Yep.
And in her personal life, family, neighborhood, community, whatever the thing is, if they're having an event or something, she's the one that they come to, whether she knows anything about it or not. So she's
Yep.
she's that. That's what I mean by high achieving. And so she's created this career that, like you say, and I say, checks all the boxes, got the promotions, did all the things, but just something inside of her yearning for more.
Yeah.
She's looking for purpose. And so my work has to do with helping people find what that is. But
Yeah.
from your point of view, knowing the woman I just described from either your professional life or your personal life, what's something you can share with her as she continues on her journey and is trying to figure it out?
Yeah. I think I think the one thing that really resonates when you share that description and that definition is that the women that you speak to, the women that I work with, like you said, it on the surface it looks like they have it all together, but somewhere along the way, and I say that I'll speak in the first person because I feel like you were describing me, but somewhere along the way, we lose ourselves. I think as women, we are wired to nurture. We are wired to give. It's who we are. It's the way we showed up on the planet, and that's a wonderful thing. I think somewhere along the way, we for, we forget to give to ourselves, and we give to everyone else and everything else, and we always make sure everybody around us is like really good, work, home, church, friends, everybody is really good. And like I said, we lose ourselves. And in general, we're not really good at asking for help. I find that very true with a lot of women. And so, we just sort of sit quietly and smolder because we know what we're experiencing. And, we kind of have our little flag up like, doesn't someone see me? But we won't raise the flag and say, hey, I need some help over here. No sort of leaves the vocabulary. And so then we mm, I'm living it again. We get to this place, I feel like, where, and this is where I was before I really had to really, begin to make some shifts that I lived, I want to say, in this space of like disillusionment. Like I'm just not sure how this is all happening. I had the degree, I had, the job, I was making the money, I had the house, I had the car, like everything on paper looks good, but it's not making any sense. It doesn't feel right. And I think I just sat in that for a while. And I think a lot of women do. We just sit like in complete disbelief. How can this be? Everything looks like it's supposed to make sense. And I think when we come to that recognition that it's us that's not in our own picture. I used to tell people I can remember a time when I was, kind of living in that space where I didn't feel like I could make room for myself in my own life because I was filled my life up with so many other people and so much stuff. Like I didn't have room for myself. So I had to start making room for myself. So that's, I think, the thing that I would share with your listeners is figure out a way to just take a beat, take a pause, and really just see yourself. Where are you in your life? How do you fit into your life? And I think, again, that comes back to that being aligned with your values and your purpose. Because I think when we lose that alignment, that's when we lose ourselves in our own story.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that because I'm thinking lots of people are saying, that's me, and you're speaking directly to me. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And you've been very generous with your time. And I know it's a little later in the day for you than it is for me. But before we tell people how they can get in touch with you, is there anything that I didn't get to ask you that bubbles up in your mind right now that you want to share? Or if there's something that's saying, oh, I just want to say one more thing. If not, it's okay, but I just want to give you the opportunity in case there is something. And then we can tell people how they can reach you.
Yeah. So I think in parting, I think the one thing that I would share, maybe two things quick, that I would share with your listeners again is there's a different way. There is a different way to get through life. There's a different way to do what you're doing and enjoy it and live it and love it and still hold on to yourself. I've done it. I've been through it. I know what it feels like, the exhaustion and the pressure and but there's another way to do this that really honors your well-being as well as your aspirations, and that it's available to you. It's available. You have what you need. You have what you need in there. You might just need some help teasing it out a little bit, but there's definitely another way. And the other thing I would say, I have this framework and I can help people, but I have to still live it every day.
Mm.
Just because I have gone through it and I figured it out for myself and I have this framework that I really have to practice what I preach every single day because I'm not exempt. My busy life, my life is still life, and I'm still busy and it is still full. So, I'm not speaking from the pulpit, so to speak. I am in the trenches right there, still doing it every day, still working the strategies and all of those things. So, but you can do it. That's what I want them to know. You can do it. There's another way, and I promise you, you can do this differently.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I mean, no better words to leave them with. You can do it. Okay, one more thing I meant to ask you. Where can people be in touch with you and hear more about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me online at well with L, so just the letter L, .com. All my background information is there. You can access online courses, coaching available that I have. I have some freebies available for you. And if you're ready to start exploring, maybe a little bit, you can schedule a free one-on-one consultation and we can just kind of talk and see where you are. If you're ready to dive in, I'm ready to dive in with you. So, yep, wellwithL.com. That's where they can find me.
Great. WellwithL.com. Thank you. Again, Dr. Lynise Green, you've been so generous with your time. Thank you for sharing your insights, hard-won wisdom, and now bringing this sense of joy and presence to us and helping everybody know what's possible for them. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, I'd love to hear your response to this episode. What's one takeaway or one nugget that got your attention? You can follow me on social media. I'm on all the channels, but I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn and send me a message. Let me know what you're thinking at Robin L. Owens, PhD, at Robin L. Owens, PhD. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.